Hello everyone, welcome to my channel and welcome to today's video. Today I'm going to talk about my road trip all the way down from Brittany to the Mediterranean, trying to escape the rain. That was such a thing. I wanted to go to the sunshine of the Mediterranean, of the south of France. So I left one winter morning my home in the very western part of France, and I started my journey, and my very first stop was in a lovely little town called La Roche-Bernard in Brittany in the southern part. Oh, and I forgot to mention that I am traveling with a young puppy. Viking is his name. So after La Roche-Bernard, I drove a little bit further to the Gironde region where they have lovely wines. I am traveling in my converted Kangoo camper van, and my parking for the night was at Gironde. It was a very calm parking. I was there all by myself, which was kind of logical because there was a raging storm going on. It was not the best time to be camping outside. I took the direction of the Cognac, the town of Cognac. I visited the town. I didn't drink any cognac, but it is a lovely town to visit and a beautiful area. I had the intention of going to the Dune de Pilat, near to the town of Arcachon, where there is this enormous sand dune that you can climb. But there was a storm hitting the country, and it was way too windy and too dangerous to be staying here. So I headed inland to find a new parking, and I found a lovely spot near to the town of Ostend. Ostend, Hostens if you like, is in the Gironde region. Viking and I had a good night's sleep there on the banks of that little lake. And the next day we were heading for the Pyrenees, and we were going through the regional park of the Gascogne. Oh my, the initial thought of my road trip was to escape the Breton rain, but that day it was raining, it was pouring. And when I went to the town of Pau in the foothills of the Pyrenees, it was raining. It was a sad town, but still a beautiful view over the hills. I wanted to visit so much more and so many places, but after a short visit to Lourdes, everyone knows Lourdes, I decided to keep on going and spend the night in Toulouse in a hotel because I was so fed up of the rain. Full of positive thoughts of sunny days ahead, I took the direction for the Mediterranean through the department of the Ariège. One of my visits was the town of Mirepoix. And I found myself more and more in a completely different landscape. The beautiful mountains in the Cathar region. One of the Cathar buildings that I visited was the Château de Puy-Vert. Well, the sign says it is closed. And while driving through the Ariège region, I stopped at the gorges de Saint-Georges in the national park Catalan Pyrenees. Further southeast, I passed Perpignan, and I found myself the most amazing parking in the hills, very quiet. I had an awesome view over the Mediterranean Sea with the small coastal villages beneath me. I decided to drive all the way to Spain, which was not a very long drive, but beautiful bendy roads. But I couldn't stay long in Spain because Viking, my little puppy, did at the time not have all the shots necessary for his doggy passport. On my way back north again, I stopped in Banjul and in Collioure, lovely little villages on the Mediterranean coast. I went more inland and I found myself driving through vineyards and past famous wine chateaux, where I ended up in the town of La Grasse. After visiting the town that has a label of Les plus beaux villages de France, I decided to stay and found myself a parking. And the very next morning, as I was not far from Carcassonne, I took the way up a little bit more north and went to the biggest of all Cathar towns. Absolutely worth the visit, Carcassonne. After a long visit of this amazing town, I continued my road slowly back to the north again. And I parked my car in the medieval town of Puy-Celle-ci, where finally it was not raining. It was a lovely spot to park. Apparently I had too much sunshine the other day, so the day that I decided to go to the Périgord, it was another rainy day. My first stop on that day was Pérez-le-Roc, a lovely little town. And my next stop was Rocamadour. I had never been there. Everyone was talking about it. It is an unbelievable medieval town and monastery. You have to climb or take a lift up there, and this town really is worth the visit, even in the rain, even in the winter. Because of all that rain, I decided to spend a night in a hotel in the town of Sarlat. Plenty of things to do in Sarlat. It's famous for its local market of local produce. But again, it was raining. The next day, driving through the prehistoric Périgord region, and I really have to go back there someday when the weather is better. And it was a day of only driving and driving and driving, and I went all the way north near to the Loire et Cher region.
I think this is it.
And I stayed on a parking of a castle near the town of Gironde, famous for its wines. A very cold night here in my converted Kangoo, but it meant that the next day it was a gorgeous blue sky that was greeting me, and I decided to take me and Viking to the Chenonceau Chateau on the Cher River. And the visit of this chateau, it might not be the biggest of the Loire chateaus, but it truly is a beautiful chateau. The gardens, the castle, and the vegetable and herb gardens. Viking made some new friends, and it truly was one of the highlights of my road trip. I decided to follow the Loire westbound, heading slowly but steadily back home again. And I was driving next to this very famous river until I found a parking in a little place called La Poissonnière. Very calm except for the railroad next to the parking. And I continued my way, returning to Brittany.
I have my dog with me.
And I drove from Angers to Le Croisic, which is a small fisherman's village at the coast of the Atlantic Ocean, just before entering Brittany. driving through the National Park de Bruyère, and it is in these swamps where they collect the famous salt of the Gironde. I made a stop in Rochefort-en-Terre, a gorgeous town. It's another Plus beau village de France. If ever you find a sign Plus beau village de France, it is worth visiting it. It is always a nice, pleasant and interesting town. After Rochefort-en-Terre, I found the familiar landscapes of Brittany, the bare cornfields, the mistletoes in the winter trees, and I drove all the way to the center of Brittany, to the lake de Guéridon, which is an artificial lake made for electricity reasons, and there is where I parked my Kangoo for the night. And this is where I started my very last day of my road trip. I went from the Lake de Guéridon to the southwest of Brittany. I made a stop at the chapel of Sainte Barbe in the center of Brittany, in the Morbihan. It's a very impressive building, very impressive sights over the Morbihan, and I only had a couple of more hours of driving to do before I arrived home in Finistère after a couple of weeks on the road exploring our beautiful France.
That's right. I'm back home. End of my road trip. Thanks for watching. See you next time. Au revoir et à très bientôt.